there's another stigma between people who say like, people who are playing music on a guitar or like, playing the drums, and they say, oh, that's a musician, but a DJ is not really a musician. What do you have to say to those people?
I always joke and say this, the music scene in India is more political and has more politics than actual politics.
It wasn't available in music world. You couldn't you wouldn't know what it, or you watched it on VH1 or something.
And like us, there's a few others. Magnetic Fields is the best example of someone who's nailed it on the nail hammer head. I mean, they've changed the game in India. They've set the bar so high. Yeah. They're talked about globally, and I believe I'm going this year finally to check it out.
Oh, me too. One part which I do understand is there is certain genres of music which can only make sense if you're on a certain chemical.
Right? Yeah. Here, now it's the club trying to deal with someone's personal ego because they've gotten upset. Yeah. The police are coming trying to make headlines. Yeah. Right? Then you have the bouncers trying their 2 minutes of fame.
The media.
They finally got some work where they have to break up something or beat up someone. Right. So you see, nobody's working in tandem.
Right.
When you're playing, do you have a set playlist already, or are you like, when I see sometimes they're working on the knobs, or they're not really even turning the knobs? Is a lot of it just gimmickry, or actually they're turning up?
According to you, which part of India is the most educated?
Mumbai.
Yeah,
without a shadow of doubt.
The crowd is chalk and cheese in Mumbai.
I just recently went there also, and I was like, man, this city is just like it's a true metro of the world. Yeah. Things I always say, music to me is fun and emotion, right? If you deliver these two things, the crowd is dancing, the venue owner's bar is flowing, they're making money, the bouncers are happy, the people are safe. Who cares really, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, Hyderabad or India has progressed so much with just the music industry, the music scenes. Now before we only had cassettes and CDs, and that was the extent of music. Unless we didn't have it wasn't available in music world, you couldn't you wouldn't know what it, or you watched it on VH1 or something. But now it's so different. Everything is digital, everything is online, it's everything is shared, everything is great. So, and we have somebody who's kind of killed it in the music scene in the last few years. He's a brother. I've known him all my life, I feel, and he's gone like a lot of paces ahead in the music industry. We have Kartik, who's going to tell us something about this.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for having me first of all.
Your story is also very, very unique. You've been an avid music fan. Whenever I saw there was a party, you were always there close to the DJ, enjoying, and then you yourself got into the DJing industry. How has that experience been? How long? What has your journey been like?
I think as far as I can remember, I've been a music fan. And when you said music world as well, it struck a chord with me. I remember we'd go there and they'd have only 2 racks of English cassettes, and I didn't have a CD player back home either. So I would do silly things like I remember I wanted the Eminem Marshall Mathers LP album so bad, and I got it. When my mom wasn't looking, I took a pen and scratched out the parental advisory explicit part of it. And I think that was one of the first few cassettes I'd ever got. And then I remember occasionally every 4 years, you visit Bangalore and you go to Planet M and you see this enormous music collection and you're like, geez, Hyderabad is so far behind. But yeah, and then I grew up with a couple of close friends in school, and I grew up on rap music and hip hop particularly. Really love the East Coast rappers and Chicago rappers. Kanye from his really old days, I'm a huge fan. So I had a friend who now is also a very big artist called Malfunction, and we actually used to skip math tuition and we recorded a whole rap album together. I remember it was somewhere in Srinagar colony, and we would take about 400 rupees each for 1 hour, take beats in a little pen drive, and we would rap. We'd write them in little notebooks. So I think that's where my first gist with music kind of came in, where I was like, wow, it's not that hard to get into it.
And I remember we would also be sitting in parking lots where we used to hang out back in the day, and him and Malfunction, who's Aditya Alimumu. And they used to just sit and rap in the back in the car.
Freestyle.
Freestyle.
Like battle and stuff.
We used to have a lot of fun freestyling and whatnot. But yeah, it was crazy. But because we just knew the little bit of hip hop that was out there, you don't have that much reach. Like Shiraz said, I mean, it's crazy how accessible music is now, right? Back then, you had to wait for a whole day to hear a favorite track of yours on Channel V or MTV. Then VH1 came along, which gave you a little more access. I remember when Napster was around, of course, at that time, I didn't even know what is legal buying music, right? So the only way I knew was
LimeWire, Bear
Napster, right? So I remember I'd go to school and leave
Take a whole day just
Yep,
to
yep.
download
You'd leave a track to
8
download.
kbps. Yes, we're at high
Not
speed.
even 8 kbps. Remember how it just go like,
Yeah, the little phone dial-up connection. Yeah, and then you leave the track. I'd come back from school like hoping I can finally listen to it, and it's like 60%.
yeah.
So you take that long to hear a track. Now you hear something, you Shazam it. You're on your way home from a party or a pub, and you can listen to the track.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
not like hunting for stuff. You don't even have Google back then. So I think that kind of like laid a foundation of really searching and finding the hard work towards music. It wasn't so like just there on a platter, which kind of like fueled me over the course. And then I moved to Bangalore for a while for college, and that's when I really got into the seriousness of music and saw what is actually out there. I remember the early days of what Chinnappa and all used to do with Submerged as dance at Fuga. Till today are some of the freshest memories in my mind, are some of the best dance music parties. And that's when I really got into electronic music and started fiddling around a little bit with digital DJing and made a lot of friends in the process. And there people really knew their music. There was a dance floor culture. I mean, this was the glory days of Bangalore in 2009 to 11, 12ish, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, Bangalore was one of the best cities to go and learn and experience music, because Hyderabad was very,
Closed.
It was very close. It was, we had 1-2 places that were called nightclubs, but and it was always the same people. It was like the same 50-100 people that used to come and party. But Bangalore was much bigger. Like it was
Correct.
much more evolved.
Yes,
in a sense.
Very evolved. And I think this is something I've noticed over the years after I got into DJing and sort of made it another side career of mine, that there's a stigma in Hyderabad also around DJing, right? It's always assumed that it's not a job or a career that a certain people who have a certain amount of education or come from a certain background should be doing. DJs I've seen at parties being treated so pathetically. That always upset me as well. I'd always want to help these DJs. But if you go to Bangalore, it's cool. You can be an MBA graduate and want to DJ, dude. You want to do this and DJ. It took time, but Hyderabad for the longest time didn't believe that. A DJ was just as much as a couch or a speaker at a party. They were just an accessory.
Extra
They were
orchestra.
they were not treated as the party depends on them, right? But that's something which still I find kind of lacks, but Hyderabad took some time to get there.
Yeah.
And it was more the clubs, it was more who you would see at the club in Hyderabad rather than what was the music, what's the vibe, what's the genre I'm going to hear, what kind of, if I want to dance, do I want to just like chill and have a drink? That sense wasn't there in Hyderabad. It was more like, this is a spot that's happening tonight, everybody is going to be there, let's go there. But Bangalore had this little pockets of culture growing in different parts early days and even later on, where it's what you see in London or New York. If you feel like going for a chill drink and have some cocktails with some music which is kind of background, you have that option. You want to go and dance it out in a slightly darkish room, you can do that. You want to just go to a pub, listen to rock music, you could do that in Bangalore. So Hyderabad, I feel, still is now kind of getting there, but Bangalore has had this for decades, I'd say, and people really knew their music.
So as a DJ, what really made you gravitate towards that particular field, and like what has been the pros and cons of that experience?
So actually I got kind of lucky. I used to be like what you call a bedroom DJ. So I would just play for friends, and I had a lot of friends who were DJs. I made friends with them, just like harassing them at parties, to be very frank, and they turned out to be some of my best friends.
I've been witness to a few of them.
These people were very kind to not push me off the console, and but they were happy that someone is interested. And then there was this venue here called Heart Cup, which did something very cool called the Open Console, which is like an open mic night or a karaoke night, right? And a bunch of people said, tell Kartik to perform. And I did my first gig there, and I remember I played for, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but it just went off really well. Like it went off like a proper set. I think there were like a good 150 people, and the very next...
I was one of them.
Oh, you were there? Wow,
Me
okay.
and Koti were there.
Yeah, I don't remember this. Okay. Yeah, and my mom came, and it kind of blew up. And the very next week, I got my first paid gig offer, and then I just kind of took it where it came from. And I kind of just really like the whole scene. I like the community that's built.
Feel like you're controlling the vibe.
More than the DJing and the vibe, I think I really like the community around it. It's a really good bunch of people I've met across India who are driven for very different reasons and good reasons and creative reasons. And I felt like there was a small gap where there weren't enough people who, could help the creative bridge with the the commercial side of things, etc. So that was my long-term goal always. I don't see myself as a DJ for the long term. It's more to help build a scene and help the creative people not get bogged down by Excel sheets and other rubbish. Let me do that for you. You guys make crazy music and play good music.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So tell me, there's another stigma between people who say, like, people who are playing music on a guitar or like playing the drums, and they say, oh, that's a musician, but a DJ is not really a musician. What do you have to say to those people?
I always joke and say this: the music scene in India is more political and has more politics than actual politics. That's one of the cons which you asked earlier. It's extremely political. I mean, there's even the argument in terms of DJing as a laptop DJ is not a real DJ, whereas someone who plays on the CDJs. But now the CDJs are so digital; it's like as good as the new CDJs are like an iPad. You can see everything. Then they'll say, "Oh, you should play on vinyl." I mean, like, come on! If someone's making a crowd dance, that's enough, right? You don't got to put somebody down on how they deliver that sound. There is, of course, there's also the arguments of a DJ, and then the producers are a bit more snobbish, saying, "I make music, you don't know how to make music, but he gets paid so and so." So you have all these things, but I think two things I always say: music to me is fun and emotion, right? If you deliver these two things, the crowd is dancing, the venue owner's bar is flowing, they're making money, the bouncers are happy, the people are safe. Who cares really, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's at the end of the day, it's all fun. Let's not get so political and this is real, that's not real, which is what I tell a lot of people. But of course, people might find that they have these issues saying, I've worked so hard to learn how to play a violin, and which is different. I think we should just all be happy for each other and see India and artists come up from India.
Yeah,
because the most important thing.
It is something very new, contrary to Indian culture, because the older conservative part of India sees music and parties as like, oh, this is drugs is happening, alcohol.
But that's a very new thing. But for all the India is a place of Maharajas and music been a very very big part of that. Like performances have been a very big part of that. So I don't know why now it's kind of looked down upon, and people see it in a bad light because
this is something actually a very good point for which I discuss with some of my close friends who we work with. We call it unsustainable partying, right? There's a lot of people in it to make a quick buck, to have the VVIP tables and the champagne bottles popping on stage, right? End of the day, these people really don't care about the well-being of the crowd. They don't care whether the girls are safe on the dance floor. They don't care whether drunk people are getting home safe. These kind of things are what are detrimental to the scene, right? When you go abroad, why doesn't Amsterdam encourage it for decades? It's part of their culture. Why does a Berlin or Germany, It's because people have come to an agreement that the government has said, hey, we're going to let you party, but do it responsibly. Don't break things, don't cause public nuisance, respect people, don't create harm to women. That's something that's very important. I think the women aspect and also, people being safe and having a safe experience is something that's missed in a lot of things in India currently. There are a few people doing it really well. Inclusivity is a big thing now. You see a lot more women DJs on lineups, which is brilliant. You see a lot more. There are some festivals which have a strict policy where it has to be 40% or 50% women on the lineup, otherwise they won't do the event. So there's a lot of good pockets of people doing it, but there are the people who are doing it unsustainably just for the numbers, to make that quick money, get that 5 minutes of fame on Instagram.
In terms of these two kinds of parties that are going on, like what percentage would you rate them? Like 90% are the people who are in it to make a quick buck, and 10%, or like what is it like? I would say
it's three splits. I would say there's about 70% of the people who are doing it for a lot of the wrong reasons, because they have the money and they've got a friend in the music industry who are just like, let's invest in this, let's do it. They eventually get filtered out very soon because their dads are going to say, yo, no more checks for you, boss. You burned 2 crores of mine and you've shown nothing for it. These are the people who did the cruise party, which turned out to be a huge mess, right? But that was they were charging exorbitant amounts for that.
Sure.
Then there's, of course, the 20% who've been doing it for years and years, like the Nikhil Chinnapas who built Sunburn, etc. They've found commercially viable models which cater to some part of that crowd that will go to these huge events. Then there's the 5-10% who are really throwing boutique, very cool stuff, which is very on par with Europe. Very tough to make money in that bracket, but it's there. In Mumbai, etc., you see tons of it. These are theme parties which are like, completely like freak people out, but it's being like there's a culture for it and there's sounds for it. These people are getting recognized globally, so there are a few pockets of different kinds of people doing it.
Tell me, what else have you seen, like music evolution? I mean, how has music evolved for you in terms of like when you started off in music scene and we used to listen to maybe a little bit of everything and a little bit of dark and a little bit of light, but what is it, if you had to explain to somebody what, like what is dark music, what is light music, what is a rhythmic music, how would you explain that?
So I'd say the broader overarching thing is called electronic dance music, right? So you have your commercial EDM, which is your noisy, the Martin Garrix stuff, right?
Yeah.
Then you have it's the subgenres. I find it quite douchey also to be explaining these subgenres because no common man should know this, right? You go to a bar, I just want to listen to music bus. I don't want to hear your lecture about what thing
but
it's
still
about.
we need to put it.
I think I call it a time and place for everything, right? I think any DJ should know what slot time they're playing. You can't be coming in at a 7 p.m. slot at a beautiful olive sundowner on a great day and playing some really noisy music. People are just chilling into their Sunday, grooving into it. So I think the time and place is really important. A lot of people get confused with it. Crowd is also, not that extremely educated. Sometimes they come drunk. Maybe they've not slept for the previous night and they just want that. So it's tricky, but I think it's important for the DJ to get people into a mood. So that's what I like to do also. If the crowd's very scattered, I throw a couple of feelers out. I'll see what they're really digging. If it's something more groovy, something more vocally, then if I catch 5 people's attention, I'll stick to that sound.
Got it.
But how you're saying music evolution, it's evolved so much. I mean, there's so many subgenres, there's different sounds, there's different things to do. And I think that's what being a DJ is, right? How you put it all together in your favorite sounds.
How important is BPM, beats per minute, important for you to choose?
It does play.
It's songs.
It's pretty important. But I think like once you're in a set and you're really into it.
Surya, you're asking how important is rice to biryani?
No, I know, but like a lot of people don't realize that you club certain songs as per the beats you get per minute.
You have this thing called
the tempo.
Now it's become so digital, right? You call it harmonic mixing. So you have these softwares that tell you what key is the entire track. It's like your sa re ga ma pa da. What's the one key? So you play everything in a sa or everything in a re together. So you have a lot of tools to do these very simply. BPM is important for sure. But now I think it's been about 4.5, 5 years since I DJ. You kind of hear it also. I immediately hear another track, I'm like, oh shit, that's way too fast. So you don't even look at the BPM, but it's important. Yeah, it's important for sure when you're early days of DJing to see what kind of BPM different tracks are, because it's tough to mix them and the mood also.
We spoke about the pros of DJing. What are the cons? Like sometimes a song request, play Baby Doll, play Bollywood.
That's the tip of the iceberg. I'd say the cons are, promoters are so crazy. They don't pay you sometimes. I have at least 4 gigs from across the country which people have just ignored paying me forever. And that's nothing for me. Like I know some of my DJs who do this as like a prime career, right? And for them, like they value every rupee, right? And
of course.
It's disgusting. You see these guys on Instagram, they're booking international DJs from Europe, etc., paying them lakhs and lakhs, but you can't clear a guy's 20,000 rupee payment, 30,000 rupee payment. That's the biggest con. There's a lack of professionalism from a lot. But the few good agencies in the country that manage the big artists are kind of like filtering out these people. They immediately know when they get an email, it's a common understanding that we don't work with this guy because we know how he is. We don't work with this venue. So venues there's kind of like a tier 1 venues, tier 2 venues, tier 3. So you have this is kind of growing now. So it's filtering out those people. That's one big con. The other big con is, of course, it's very, very political, and there are days where you'll hear a lot of shit. I've seen people say really a lot of nasty things to me about me on social media in third person, and you've heard of people in the circle who from society, saying negative things like what's this guy doing, etc. So there's always the people who will have these negative things to say. So took me some time. There were some days, where I'd just come home and call a couple of friends of mine and say, chuck this shit. I'm just going to work my day job. Why do I have to deal with this? It's so gutting, to inside when you're giving an honest effort and people put you down. But yeah, those are the 2 cons I can think off the top of my head.
What about song requests and all like that? Does that happen?
You become immune
Surya,
to
that's you, Surya.
You become immune to it.
No, but the worst is, like they ruin the entire party. But the thing is, whenever there's a party happening, let's say a wedding party, now the DJ comes with his particular playlist he has. But sometimes what makes people dance is Bollywood, unfortunately. For a big chunk of
We've
India.
We've seen that a lot, and I mean, recently a friend of ours had an engagement party, and
The DJ was
the DJ was like, it's not. They said no, you have to play this song and this song and this song, and he just at the end he just gave up. He's like, whatever you say, I'll play.
Aux cable.
That comes back to the point which I was saying. The stigma and how DJs are treated is so silly and like I think disrespectful. Why even call a DJ? Right? Just connect your phone and play Spotify then, right? If that's how you want the party to go on. Why can't you just trust this person you've paid so much money to come and like guide your party? So I think there's that lack of that impatience. But I think gigs in public spaces now they're very particular about crowd going close to the DJ, being on the console. So. And also you pick and choose, right?
It's not like you're telling Da Vinci, put some blue on that painting, put some of that, It's like it's art which you're working hard on.
Some of the better venues, especially in India now, like I know in Hyderabad as well, they have their set days, right? They know Saturday night is a commercial music night, Friday is a hip hop night, Thursday is a live band, Sunday is a techno night. So you keep doing things consistently, the crowd also knows. I'm not going to go on a Sunday and expect a live band, right?
Yeah.
So you can either walk in, walk out. The clubs also, like, I make it clear in my social media marketing. This is what I'm offering. Come for the offering when it's there. Don't come and expect an offering on the wrong day, right? So, yeah.
But you see, I mean, like, there are so many incidents that happened in clubs. Like, recently there was an incident that a minor girl had gotten out, and it was really sad that she had to go through a very difficult ordeal with five boys. And and then there was recently there was some really big bouncers beating up this couple outside of Delhi. I mean, so. Is it like inherent to the party industry or like these nightclubs that these things are bound to happen, or it can happen in any walk of life?
I think it can happen in any walk of life, but I try to figure out how to say this very crystal clearly. Abroad, I studied in Australia. You have to give the onus of responsibility in an equal fashion, I feel. So the bouncers in bars and clubs in Australia, their earpiece goes directly to the cop line. Okay, and if a venue has someone outrageously drunk or being unruly, the venue gets a fine. The security force gets a fine. So they have collective responsibility, and they have to report it immediately, right? Here, now it's the club trying to deal with someone's personal ego because they've gotten upset. The police are coming trying to make headlines, right? Then you have the bouncers trying their 2 minutes of fame.
The media.
They finally got some work where they have to break up something or beat up someone. So you see, nobody's working in tandem. Rather, if they all got together and said, hey, 5 drunk boys, 16, 17-year-old looking girl, call the cops and say, can we arrange for a cab for her to get her home? This doesn't look safe. But no one will do that, right? There's no conscience. So I think that's where it's really important, where we have to grow to. Venue owners need to start talking to each other. Instead of competing with each other, work as a collective for the greater good. It's not about me doing better on a Saturday night or you doing better. And you've run a bar for 5 years and you see how ridiculous it is, right? You get fake call cops to shut your place down.
Of course, I've had that a lot.
Rather, I know this in Mumbai now. A couple of my friends were telling me that all the big venues, once a month they get on a call, all 5 of them, and they talk to each other saying, this weekend I'm doing this artist, this weekend, so you take it easy that Saturday. And that way there's only 400, 500 people, right? Let's not split them up into 50-50-50.
Correct.
So, this is helping the scene a lot. So, I think that's really important. Everyone should start working together. And you give that level of trust to the cops saying, I'm running it responsibility. I'm being transparent with you.
That's great.
So, don't come and like bust up my party for no reason. So I think that's the important way forward. But it is. I think with alcohol always comes trouble. I think
it's also like the Indian, I've said this before also, that Indians still are not figured out how to handle their booze yet completely, because that's why we have such short timings like midnight shutdown. Whereas now you go to Europe, there's no shutdown time. It's just go on as long as you want to.
People know by the age of 28, 30 that, it's time to go home, boss. I mean, we have people our age also who just want to push the parties. I think it's in us. I think we're also a suppressed like society. Our generation is going to be one of the, I think it's the first one that's finally gotten this freedom and like more Western thinking, right? I'm sure.
Before it was disco.
I think the generation after us will have it even more chill. But for us, we were so confined. Even I think when I look back to school, it was such crap, right? Like, what has stand in a straight line ever done for me, right? So we've been always taught in this authoritative manner in school that our parents have to tell us this, now the cops have to do this. It's just authoritative everywhere.
Even as children, like, I feel like, whether it's your maid or whoever had it, they said don't go there because there's a ghost. Like the way of explaining something was always like scare the person first. Yeah. So it's not, there was no explanation, there was no education. We only had this. So I guess.
But I'll tell you that the one part where like I'm a father, I have a 3-year-old daughter. One part which I do understand is there is certain genres of music which can only make sense if you're on a certain chemical.
For sure, they say that. I know, actually it's quite funny. My mom finds it really surprising now. A lot of my DJ friends now when they're traveling through, they stay at home and she's like, I like your DJ friends more. You and your childhood friends drink way too much. None of these guys drink. They don't do anything. They just come and play for 3-4 hours and they go home. My mom is like, what's the deal? How do they do it? I was like, I guess they know the responsibility of touring and how tiring it gets. And it's shocking. There's so many more artist friends I know who become they're insanely health conscious. They're turning vegan, vegetarian. They meditate. They do yoga first thing in the morning.
Yeah, because you can't probably sustain if you're
correct. That's how the legends have done it. Yeah, you look at like
burnt out.
You look at the John Digweeds and the Sashas and Hernan Catanios of the world.
There's a video of Skrillex, the dubstep DJ. He was going at it, and some guy's offering him a joint, and he's like, "No, get away!" Like,
at some point it takes a toll on you. I met there's this guy who's probably 16 now. He's called Nick Warren. He's a legend from the UK. He's played with Hernan Catania all over the world, and I was talking to him, and it's like talking to a British uncle, and he told, and I said, come home for a drink, it'd be an honor, and he said, mate, when you're my age, you can't be doing that no more. He's like, by the time I turned 35, I'd realize what's more important, my living, or do I party with people everywhere I go in the world? So people learn that trade-off, but I think music is very subjective. It depends on where you experience it also, to be honest, Some kinds of techno, if you listen to it, the way it's delivered to you in India, in a dark room, where there's other people off their head, of course you're going to associate with that, right? But I've been to parties across the world where you can be hearing a really nice, like a techno party, but people are chilling on the grass, they're having a sandwich, they're going for a walk, having conversation. So you see that experience also. It's not necessarily come in like rage and get your energy out. So I think it's how you deliver it to the consumer also is very important. The setting and doing things right.
Yeah, I mean there is in Europe especially. I mean there are so many streets. Like you've been to Amsterdam a few times, and you have told me how relaxed it is. Because I've never been, and you've told me how relaxed it is, and you can walk through a street and they're playing very chill techno music.
Playing
but
everything.
Then you can be having lunch or dinner.
Correct.
And you're like it's such a stereotype that like you have to have that ridiculous restaurant music playing in the background.
It's crammed into the 3 hours. If you go to a party, they cram into the 3 hours that all the energy, all the craziness, all the lights, all the smoke has to happen, right? Rather than letting people be that patient and long build up. But there are, what I do with Killa and Madhav Shore, who's Kora, I mean, the amount of effort and time we put into planning lineups, planning an experience beyond just the party.
What is it, this experience that you do?
Oh, yeah. So so basically I work with him and we do these two IPs, intellectual properties called Alchemy, which is a full festival format, and Sacred Alchemy, which is a club night.
Yeah.
It's under his music label called Killa Records, which has been around for 10 years. It's got a beautiful brand. It's got an aesthetic. It's got a roster of great artists. So we kind of wanted to start doing our own events because we got sick of the scene. And we've done 3 of the Alchemy so far in Hyderabad and Wilderness Retreat. We did one in Goa and one in Pune. And Sacred Alchemy, we've done a bunch across the country. But with Alchemy, I mean, the attention to detail we put in, we spend a lot on the artwork so that people see the artwork and we convert that to the stage design. So you get a feel for it. The programming of the lineup to make sure all the music is in coherence. We make sure there's nothing scary. And the first time we did in Hyderabad, I was shocked. There's friends who've never heard electronic music and said, I wanted to stay there all day. And that's what we want. You want to get the people who don't listen to it. Then you've succeeded. It's not the regular party goers who say, oh, great party. That they'll say anyway, right? It's the people who don't come for your party and say, I had a great experience. That's what's important. So we try different things. We do a thing called the Bazaar, which is a flea market, and we invite local people. Things like tarot card readers, organic stuff. But we keep it very coherent. We're trying to get the right bar partners and, alcohol companies that get it. They have to get idea of what is a cool cocktail, what is a nice cocktail, what is a refreshing cocktail, rather than, doing something silly, just putting a colorful bar and mixing some syrups. So we're trying to work with the right people. It's a long drawn process, but we're doing okay. And like us, there's a few others. Magnetic Fields is the best example of someone who's nailed it on the nail hammer head. I mean, they've changed the game in India. They've set the bar so high.
Yeah.
They're talked about globally. And I believe I'm going this year finally to check it out.
Oh, me too. I'll see you there.
Yeah.
Oh,
As
really?
That's in
We are
Alsi, sir.
all of us are going.
All of us are going to
Apparently,
Magnetic
Solomon is playing in Delhi
Yeah,
at the
he's
same
playing,
amount.
that's quite so it's quite funny. There's people who are doing these opposite at the same dates just to show we're bigger.
But it's so unique because I don't think anyone else has done something like doing a music festival in a palatial palace
Yes, it was the
and
first.
see that vibe. Because for everyone else, they say, no, just play this Rajasthani music in a palace. How can you play this? But I think the Prince of Alsi sir over there, he's a big fan.
Is he the prince though?
He's the prince.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I actually
the
read a
prince of
great
the royal
article.
family of-
I read a great article when Magnetic had just started. The crew that does it, they're called Wild City. They're from Delhi. They're the ones who did the recent Boiler Room as well. So apparently they had gone and visited. GQ wrote this whole write-up, and they were sitting and having dinner. They were doing like a weekend vacation. They knew him as a friend. And they joked and said when they were having a drink, can we throw a music festival here? And the guy said, yeah, if you can, you don't dirty the place. They said, are you joking? And he said, no, seriously, nobody comes here. I can't get people to stay in my rooms. So they did it and they packed the place, and now it's become like an economy in that town. There's vendors everywhere. It's quite funny when Magnetic starts. If you're in the DJ or something, you'll start getting all these ad requests on Facebook, and it'll say Alcisar guide, and he'll be like, sir, you need taxi, alcohol, this, that. It's created like a whole scene there now. So I think that's
but
very cool.
it's very interesting for
Yeah.
sure. But like as you were saying, like how Magnetic feels and how the idea came across, it's a somewhat of a mini cultural revolution happening in the Indian diaspora, where sorry, not diaspora, but Indian younger generations, where they're really experiencing music festivals within India. Before we used to always hear of Tomorrowland or the full moon parties in Thailand and in Europe, but now India is finding its own thing. So like Magnetic Fields, I went to the Zero Music Festival in Arunachal, which is very, very remote area, but amazing music as well. There's a big
Correct,
change
there's a
happening.
big paradigm shift where, I think the crowd's getting smarter and more educated, well-traveled. And now with YouTube and things like Circle, you see it, right? It's so accessible. Like, again, it goes back to what Shiraz was saying with digital. You just, on a weekend, you're having pre-drinks with friends, you turn on YouTube, there's 1,000 suggestions. And you look at these parties with great pyramids and whatnot, and in middle of all these monuments. So you see it's possible. And the crowd is they're bored, right? They're not going to come to the same place and go to the same dance floor, hear the same music, see the same faces, same lights. Everyone wants to be surprised. They want new experiences. So I think that's in turn driving promoters and agencies now to think out of the box also. And that's the way forward. Everyone wants fresh experiences. It's all about the experience, right? You want to, after a hard week of work, you want to go back and say, that was a great weekend. That was money well spent.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to say like, oh, I waited in a line. The sound was bad. I couldn't get space. I couldn't get a drink.
With the competition increasing as well, and the consumer getting smarter, you are going out and spending this much amount of money. You want a good experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the curation of that event really, really now makes a difference, because you want to come there, you want to have a good time. Everybody does not have time to spare like we had in college. Like you have to work Monday to Friday, Saturday, whatever it is, but you have that one day to spend, chill out. You want to do it well.
Yeah, and otherwise that turns you into I'd rather just sit at home, right? If you're going out, it should be really worth it, and I think that's important for people to start realizing that, and realize at the end of the day that people who are coming need to be treated like nicely, and it's vice versa as well. I never go to a place without saying thank you to the bouncers, the staff, the people at the bathroom. Just a nice thank you.
Be
not even
courteous,
a tip. Be courteous, be nice to the whole ecosystem of what's happening, right? And then it all kind of works in tandem.
But like, how we always associated electronic music with the West. With certain DJs like Nuclear and all, who put an Indian
very smart
touch
very good
into dubstep music and all like that.
It was genius what he did. How he launched it was the middle of Ganesh immersion in Mumbai, and a truck opened up and he was playing.
And he launched his album like that.
I don't know whether it was him or someone else called it. He doesn't even call it electronic music. He calls it street music. So in Bombay, you hear from an auto driver pumping Nuclear to like somebody in a Benz. So he catered to the entire spectrum of it all. So that was very genius and smart, and there's a lot of artists like that now coming out.
Yeah.
And I think in different genres, vocalists, there are people.
Because music has no boundaries.
Correct.
It should not be put into a certain
absolutely.
box that, oh no, you listen to
Very
hip hop,
correct.
you are only a black person can do hip hop.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no
I
such
think
thing.
that was revolutionary for me too.
Like even India, where there are gully boy revolutions going on
Yeah,
right
I mean,
now.
Gully Boy was great. It was huge, right? Because I think, like, a villager from some remote place in Andhra, Telangana, or maybe even like a Bihar or Northeast, he probably had a way with words. He knew he could rhyme. Until he saw the movie, he never thought, oh shit, this is a career. So I'm excited to see what the next 10 years brings in the hip hop scene in India. It's glorious. And I've had the fortune to meet Vivian, who's divine, a couple of times. Very down to earth guy. They're pushing a real huge culture. It's very like homely with all the rappers, and Mumbai of course has so many stories to tell, right? That's the point of rap music, right? It's about letting out your story and letting that anger out. So that's how it grew amongst the African American culture, and I think it's a great voice for the Indian people. So
with your experience and like with the time that you've spent, you've met, I'm sure, n number of artists from different genres. Who has inspired you most and why? I mean, like, you can give a couple.
Sure. I'd say globally, Patrice Baumel. He's a Dutch DJ. I mean, phenomenal human being, artist. Just great. We cherish whenever he comes to India, so we get to spend an hour with him. Every word that comes out of his mouth is so valuable, and really amazing human being. And he's told me a lot of things which inspired me along the way, and he said, India's on the cusp of greatness with music. You guys just got to fix these little things like the funny colored lightings, and he's like, you guys, and I was like, man, but we don't have people. He's like, you know what we did when we were younger? I just found a guy in an engineering college electrical guy who just came and did it up for me. So he's like, you got to think out of the box, hustle, guys. Every time he comes back, he leaves us little bit tidbits here and there. So he's a great guy. Patrice Baumel is really, really inspirational to me. Style of DJing, human being wise, everything. In India, there are a bunch, but Kora, my partner, I think as a person and as a DJ, very inspirational, very pragmatic in his way of thinking, obsessed with aesthetic and brand and sound and these little things that matter. And of course, my really good friend Midnight Traffic, Rishi. He's my polar opposite. He's the one who doesn't drink, etc. But always been hard on me, never been easy on me as a DJ. Guided me in the right ways, told me the right paths. So yeah, these people really, three of them really inspired me in many ways.
I have one question because whenever I would see DJs, when you're playing, do you have a set playlist already, or are you like, when I see sometimes they're working on the knobs, or they're not really even turning the knobs? Is a lot of it just gimmickry, or actually they're turning of the knobs is...
Some of the commercial, I mean, that's performance also, right? I mean, that's 90% of it. If I was recording a set at home, I'm not going to be so animated like I would be on stage. So part of it is also getting the crowd to vibe, and it's different when you're on stage. Some of it, I'd say, in the the really commercial side of things, the big money, the huge Steve Aokis, a lot of it is show and fake. But there's a lot of work a lot of DJs are doing, and I'd say the sets, it depends on how everyone arranges their folders, right? So I do it by moods or spaces. I know roughly which are my bomb tracks to get to. How I get there is freestyling. So a lot of DJs do it in that way, at least that I know. You do have a sense of planning. You can't just...
No, but like the lights also, they somehow just change as soon as the drop comes. It's pre-planned.
Correct. No, that's the big shows. If you go to the big, huge concerts, it's a fully orchestrated thing with the lighting.
So the DJ in those big shows is not really changing.
If you hear Martin Garrix today in Hyderabad and you hear him in the same weekend in Dubai or London, he'll be playing the same set. It's a pretty standard tour. But that's kind of how it is for touring DJs, touring artists anywhere. You're going to hear Justin Bieber play he'll perform the same set anywhere he goes. It's kind of what they go with the pre-planned notion when they're traveling, because you don't have access to your laptop to change things up and do things on the fly. So you have a rough plan. How you move around it is what's important, and how you tell your story for difference. Because if it's an international act who's one day he's playing in a 5,000 person venue, the next gig in a Bangalore is a 200 people venue, you have to completely change your style. You've got to go for plan B. So you have to have plan B, plan C, plan D. I think that's the preparation of a DJ. Prepared, more than the console, anyone can do that. I'll be very honest with you. Anyone can mix. It's the planning that goes behind the thought process and the digging for music. That's the hard part.
So I wanted to ask you, by night you're a music connoisseur and you're doing brilliant things, but in the day, you have a very, very different kind of
Yes, I
job.
do.
Like you do something very different. Tell us
Correct.
something about
yeah,
that.
So I'm just about entering my 11th year of work experience now, and I'm a finance grad by education, and I started my career in investment banking, hopped around to different jobs, but now I work with something very interesting. It's called security printing, where we
Right.
do anything with secure data on paper or plastic. So we do several government projects. We are one of the printers to print the Aadhaar cards in India, and we've done about 440 million Aadhaar cards so
Oh,
far.
wow.
Superb, yeah.
We were part of the initial how the Aadhaar launched in India. We were very integral in that. And I've been around here for 2 years, and I'm a VP there, and I do project management and business development. But it's great. I mean, it's the most interesting business I've ever seen, and over 2 years, it's kind of grown on me. So we range with a lot of things. So we do all your kind of government ID cards. We do banking cards for most major banks as well. We make SIM cards for all the telecom operators in India,
Right.
and we do a bunch of international projects as well. We export to about 54 countries.
Does it get difficult to balance that?
I think
Such diverse sort of career choices you have.
sometimes it does. I think when I take a Sunday gig and then I have to be at work on Monday, it's definitely hard. I'm only fully functional by a Wednesday. But I think it's important to, I want both just as badly, right? I want to have the stability, especially after COVID. I want to have the stability of a constant income. I want to have the drive and a platform to do something very, very large scale. And because I feel I'm good at it, right? If you're good at something, why let it go?
Yeah, because like as soon as when COVID hit, I'm sure DJs would have been.
Yeah, it was a big struggle for a
Like
lot of
how
them.
do you do? How do you
Yeah,
survive? If you're,
So that's of course
they
one
were
thing.
having Zoom parties or something.
Yeah.
Some people were
No, but
having.
like, you don't get paid for those. Did you
Correct,
get paid?
yeah.
Why would you get paid?
So
some
you-
were, some stand-up comedians are doing on Zoom some sessions. It was sad, but
Yeah, it's really sad, but so balancing them both, I've kind of learned how to compartmentalize now, and I think over the 10 years of working, I've learned how to work smart rather than sitting in the office till 9 p.m. trying to just get things done. I find 5 hours of work on very focus-driven work is as valuable as 1 week of sitting in the office till 9 p.m. So I think it's
good.
getting important things done, just remembering, delegating, and knowing what's most priority, right?
I had one question which I was holding in back of my mind, just came to me right now. I'm not that much heavy, I don't have that vast vocabulary in music,
Yeah.
but I listen to mainly something where my wife makes fun of it. She says it's commercial music.
Yeah.
You're listening. But if music is good, it will become commercial at
Absolutely.
the end. So like
Yeah.
why the unnecessary hate on commercial music? Because a lot of people say, oh, you're listening to this commercial crap. I listen to this stuff which no one's ever heard of. I'm like,
I think it's like hipster. It's quite funny. I always say this to people. I never watch TV shows which everyone likes, just out of the spite, like
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, because I'm like,
Those people say, I've never
everybody
seen
likes
Game
it.
of
I don't
Thrones.
like it now. So I don't know. I think it's human tendency to be like, I'm very unique and I'm different.
Yeah.
I'd say it's I don't want to upset anyone, but I think like hipster culture, that's where it stems from, where I'm very unique and I'm out of the box.
so
It's-
even you listen to commercial music.
I listen
maybe.
to everything. Yeah. On my off days, I'm listening to jazz, or like I'm listening to
How do you discover your music?
what's a
Like
lot.
we common folk just find it on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah,
Or we hear it at
Yeah,
parties.
correct. So
At
now,
parties.
now you have your. Shazam is one of my best friends. Shazam so much. You listen to sets in the car and stuff, and you keep Shazamming tracks. That's one great way. Other ways, I'm really fortunate now. I always, a couple of our friends, we joke. So many of our Indian DJs now are making such great music. I mean, 40% of my sets now are just Indian DJs' musics. I don't even have to. Yeah, so it's so great. They've made sets so easy now, my friends. So that's one. But yeah, it's a lot of digging. You have a couple of platforms where you buy your music, and it kind of starts understanding, and you basically follow record labels.
Okay.
So you follow a record label and you really like their
on
sound.
Spotify.
Not on Spotify, on any of these platforms. So they're the ones that release the music and distribute, right?
Okay.
So a record label will have a consistent sound. So you know, like one of my favorite labels is this thing called the God's Planet, and you know what the God's Planet when they release. So you'll get a notification say God's Planet new EP is out, and I very well know at least 2 out of the 5 tracks I'm gonna like because they have a very consistent sound in what they do.
Okay.
So you follow the record labels, and that's a really good way to kind of track good music that's coming up.
I mean, like we as laymen don't do that. We're just like, looking at the parties. We're just
Yeah. No, and Spotify, I mean, it's so intelligent now.
Yeah.
The YouTube suggestion playlist is crazy. If you leave YouTube on in one track, you're like, by the end of it, you're like, wow, I have so much good music.
But the great thing is, like, the other day I was actually you actually made me meet this guy. His name is Veer. He's from Delhi.
Good old Veer.
And he's playing this brand new sound.
Yeah,
It's called Romanian.
Yeah, it's been
Minimal.
around for long, but I think it's going to blow up in India. So it's called Romanian Minimal.
Yeah.
It's a very cool sound. It's very chill. It's relaxed. It's one of those kind where you can like party to it, but you can sit down and have like a hot dog. You can like just walk in the park with your kids. It's like a very easy vibe with sound. So I think Rominimal is going to become quite big in India soon, hopefully.
What about the Far East? Like Japan also has a
Oh yeah, we just actually
Japan,
booked an
Korea.
artist for one of our parties from Japan. His name is Haruka. It was interesting. Actually, one thing that struck me was we focus on Europe so much. We don't focus on Asia and Southeast Asia. There's a really good scene, and it's easier for India, I feel, to start collaborating with them.
Right.
We're actually going for a very cool music festival in Thailand in October called Karma Castle. One of our friends runs it. And it's a boutique festival, 300 people. And I believe it's some very cool people in the Asian scene doing some very cool stuff. So that's something I'm trying to explore a lot more now because it's so much easier, right? We're right next door to them. Why go all the way to Germany and Spain and London when you have them right next door?
Yeah, we've just idolized them too long, but like there's so much of Africa which we have no idea about their music.
Japan has a huge scene.
South America, we just think of Latino, the sort of salsa music. But I'm sure there's more to it.
I'm sure, 100%. The music is everywhere.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to educate yourself. There's you have to go in.
Yeah. And in fact, I'd say even in India, like I've been to the Northeast a couple of times. Meghalaya has one of the fondest places in my heart. The way these people love their music and know the vibe, it's just phenomenal. Like I hope to have a home there where I can keep visiting and chill out.
What about Goa? So like a lot of people head to Goa for the party scene over there.
That's the thing with India, right? Like, and even wherever you want to go to
Goa
party, go to
chalte.
Goa.
Let's go to Goa. Like,
chalo.
but Goa has a little history with music in the 70s, the hippie culture. They had certain music and then went to techno as such. What happened?
But still, I mean, there are so many places that are playing. Most artists are playing very good music there.
Yeah.
And like,
I'm personally not the hugest fan of Goa. I somehow never tend to have a good time. I feel the amount of money you spend there, you could really see more cooler stuff anywhere abroad. Like, if you go to December, and I heard the recent New Year's where people went to Goa, it was just an atrocious experience. The traffic, it's just overloaded. Everything's priced so high. I think Goa has lost its essence along the way with people coming in and trying to make the money out of it. But where money goes, why are people going to complain, right? So I guess people in the ecosystem also didn't complain. But I think people get kind of tired. But recently when I'd gone last year in November, I saw a really cool scene popping up there. Very good food, a great food scene.
Yep.
Really small bars with, phenomenal cocktails. I went to this place called Hideaway, and I think it's the best cocktails I've had in India ever.
Wow.
And really good food, very like alternative, like Afro-y house playing, good crowd. So I think these little pockets of Goa are going to bring back that vibe.
100%.
Yeah.
I went to this place called Chapora.
House of
House of
Chapora.
Not
yeah.
House of Chapora, just Chapora Street as
Chapora
well.
Street, of course. Yeah.
I mean, House of Chapora is this venue, but like Chapora Street, I mean, there's so many like
Darling Bar and stuff like that.
Darling Bar, superb.
So I think that scene is going to become like very nice in Goa.
Yeah.
Also, I think this is a huge problem, right? People who have the money are going there and then they fight, and that's the last thing you want, right? That's really what you don't want. So I think slowly it'll kind of filter out.
Heavy Delhi scene is happening.
Yeah, and also I think people came out with a vengeance after COVID, right? There's a vengeance of saving and a vengeance of want to party. So I think once all that is out of the system, maybe things will normalize. But
hopefully.
But Goa is Goa. If you go to the right pockets, it still has that history. It's very secluded because you don't want it infiltrated by these people, right? You don't want the people coming in and creating a nuisance. So they have a lot of the good scenes still going on. Healthy vibes, which keeps the history of what the place is. But Goa has that magical energy, right? That's where it all started. People talk about it all over the world.
Well, Goa has always been one of those places that you want to explore. But I've heard of these different places as well, like Om Beach in Gokarna, and I hear that there are these little pockets of spaces that people are doing parties, like a Boom Festival.
Boom's in Portugal, but
So there's
Om Beach, etc. So they kind of gotten. People have tried, but there's like places like Coorg as well, where people have tried to throw, but the locals have realized it's not worth it, right? We don't want the trash, we don't want all this nuisance, even if it brings that much money. Why spoil it? Kerala is another great example of that. They've kept it very romantic, peaceful, a coupley vibe. You don't want to infiltrate with partying. So I think there's tons of places. As long as we can, convince people that you can do something responsibly and healthy without disturbing the natural ecosystem of things. Have you seen this new documentary, Woodstock 99, that came out on Netflix? Oh, you must watch it. It's chaos.
So Woodstock, for a lot of people who don't know, was one of the most greatest music festivals of all time.
So the Woodstock founders tried to recreate that in 1999. And it was an absolute mess. It turned into a 250,000 people riot outside New York, and they burnt down the place. You must watch it. And that's the polar extreme of what can go wrong.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's what you don't want, and you don't want people doing. So as long as you create a really nice scene, I think there's so many beautiful places in India. Why not do it? And as I was saying earlier, Shillong and Meghalaya, the northeast is stunning. It's so beautiful. It's such great places to throw parties there. But yeah, it shouldn't just be about the party. I think people should realize it's an experience where you wake up in the day, you maybe go hiking, you do some food scenes.
Yes, exactly.
I was seeing one of my friends went for this festival in Norway, which we idolize a lot, called Monument. And you know what they do on day 2, day 3? They have meditation sessions, they have stretching sessions for the whole people, because by day 2, day 3 you get cramped up and stuff, so they help you stretch. And that's a holistic party, right? That's watching out for your consumer and saying, I care about you, so you can party for 3 days more. So I think that's the paradigm shift that needs to happen soon.
Do you think India is on course for that, or like we're still?
We should be. Should be. I think the crowd's going to wisen up, and more people see abroad, and more people come back and expect. I don't think it'll happen today, tomorrow, but it will happen for sure. I hope at least the next generation after me reaps the rewards of the few people sowing the seeds. So.
Yeah. According to you, which part of India is the most educated?
Mumbai.
Yeah,
without a shadow of doubt.
the
crowd is chalk and cheese in Mumbai.
I just recently went there also, and I was like, man, this city is just like, it's a true metro of the world. There's character. There's people who are like, they look like the laziest bum, but there's such hustlers. Everyone's like,
how's Delhi?
Delhi's again got some really smart people. Funnily, all the best producers out of India have all come from Delhi. The Delhi school from your medieval pundits to your Arjun Vagales to everyone has come from there. But yeah, of course, it has its violent side to it, and it's a bit scary. Women are unsafe there, so that's going to be Delhi's detriment, I think, in the longer run. But Delhi will also be Delhi for sure.
Bangalore
used to be great, I find, but
that's the sad part, because growing up we always knew that Bangalore is the cool place.
We always wanted to go to Bangalore, right?
Like it was like our sister city, right? It's like right down the road.
I think politics kind of ruined the place and the vibe.
I wonder who the ruling party is.
There have been all sorts of ruling parties there, okay?
But see, Surya right around.
It's gotten a bit overpopulated, and it's crazy. We're talking about the whole experience, right? You go out on a weekend and you don't want to come back upset. By the time you step out of your house in Bangalore, it's 1 hour in the cab, and you're like, why did I even do this? I should have just sat at home and ordered some drinks.
That traffic is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's no solution for it. So,
but like the vibe of Bangalore.
Yeah, it's all these things. Bangalore is a very cool festival called Echoes of Earth. Have you heard of it? Great festival. Very alternative. That's actually brought back the old Bangalore.
What sort of music?
Everything. They have like a live music stage. They had FKJ, which does this electronica, and it's like chill. And then they have a techno-y electronic music stage. It's all. They've got art installations everywhere.
So in Hyderabad, there is also, it's not like nightlife is non-existent here. Prism is one of the most popular nightclubs because it's a massive place. People come from all around India to actually come check out Prism. What are your top 3 favorite places in Hyderabad?
I don't have many, but I really like honestly, in Hyderabad, I really just like chilling at home with a lot of people.
So we can Shekar's home first.
So we can create our own little music safe scene. But I'd say Tabula Rasa is really up there. It's one of the best venues.
They play a lot of Telugu.
They do it all. It's a great promoter.
Very experimental.
Fantastic venue. It's like being in someone's really nice house backyard, and there's great music going on. I love the place. Tabula is great, and apart from that, I do enjoy the breweries and stuff that we have around. Just go for a quick, easy drink, and I think that's.
How's Prism? You played at Prism.
Yeah, Prism is phenomenal. I mean, as a club, I mean, it's a mammoth project. It's I don't know, 5,000, 6,000 people venue.
Do you feel like that God complex when you're there? And
when I played there was not that much crowd. So
but what's the biggest crowd you played for?
I don't know, maybe 300 people, let's say.
Yeah, okay, but so when you control their night.
Yeah, it's great. It's for sure. Yeah. At one point, you're like, wow, it's like everyone's just vibing with me. You go into a zone where everything comes off at one point. Like after 2 hours in, you're like, shit, I can mix this. I could probably mix a Drake track in right now and just go.
What was that one night for you? Like which night was that? Do you remember?
I'd say I've had some of the most memorable nights at Giggle Water here, which is a little venue. It's a little speakeasy. Great spot, really honest people, and it's like 100, 120 people, and I always play really long sets, like 3.5, 4 hours there. And it's always great. There's people who come and stay for the whole journey from when I start really deep. And man, I had some phenomenal nights there, like phenomenal nights. Yeah, really good place. And one of my other favorite gigs of my life was when I played at Summer House Cafe in Delhi, the iconic venue. And I was so nervous, I didn't know what to do. Delhi's a tricky crowd. Summer House is a tricky venue. But wow, it was like one of the best 2.5 hours of my life. Like, when you get that validation that your music's working in different geographies, that's really brilliant.
But India-wide, what are the best clubs?
Venues?
Or venues.
Venues,
I'd say Oro in Delhi is very professional. They're one of the best for sure.
Yeah.
Oro is really good. I'd definitely put Tabula Rasa up there. There's a couple. Pune is having a really huge revival.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
phenomenal.
Student cities, so young
Yeah.
crowd.
I met these guys. They have a crew called Maushi. And they're all designers. One's an automobile designer, one's an architect. So they're a one-stop. They're a ecosystem on their own. The one's a filmmaker, so they just shoot their own stuff. Very cool parties, honest parties. And their vibe is, don't even bother about the lineup. You come for a Maushi party, it's going to be fun as hell.
Yeah.
So that's a really nice scene. So I like Pune a lot. There's this really cool place called One Lounge there. So yeah, there's a couple off the top of my head. These three I can think of. Or this one. Where else? That's about it. Yeah.
But it's very interesting to see like the nightlife in India, how it's changing. It's very important to the culture, which a lot of people don't understand. You know, like the youth are not just going to sit by and play
Yeah,
cards
exactly.
all
I
day.
mean,
You can't suppress generation again, right? Just you've taken 10 steps forward. You can't suddenly say, "Yo, back to good boy, good girl."
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
No holding hands in public, not done.
Yeah,
you can't do that. You have to let
part of
humanity
I feel
grow
this
as it
moral
should.
policing really needs to stop.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
for
like,
sure.
we need to let
See, but I
India
think
grow.
what I've
and-
noticed is India is a place where they know that what the West is like, what change is like, but they like to have change at their own pace in that
Basically,
particular
I
way.
think they all
it's
want to
not
have
at
control.
their own pace. I feel it's just. I mean, see, like a very small thing, but like Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
is such a big deal for Indians. I mean, for like couples, it's like, oh, they're going out and you with the person that you love. Obviously, people are going to have like you're an adult.
Exactly.
You must be able to be with whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
But sadly, that's not allowed. It's really weird. So
I think I find it a huge function of the authorities have to have authority, right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
second it starts slipping away, they're like, we got to get it back
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
so beat some unsuspecting people is kind of the way.
You know, the most unfair things, especially to your profession, is when there's a police raid in a nightclub, they'll arrest the manager and the DJ.
yeah.
I'm like, why is that poor DJ? He's just coming, he's playing music. He
man,
has-
I've seen once they've taken an
or like,
international
you don't
DJ,
have
the
that
sweet
license,
guys.
that music people.
Yeah,
like,
what was that all about? Like, I think that was the biggest scam on planet Earth.
The PPL license.
Oh, it's the hugest scam.
Yeah.
We tell them to shut up when they call us.
So what is it? Can you explain it?
I don't entirely know.
I mean,
it's
I know what it's a public performance license.
Yeah, but it
so-
started by all these T-series and the big guys, right?
Yeah.
So they want it for every one of the Bollywood tracks played. That's their way of collecting royalty. But that's
Royalty.
not a right way to do it.
Yeah, like if I'm playing Mariah Carey song and you're taking money, is that money going to Mariah Carey?
No,
I don't
no,
see
it's
it.
not.
It's a cartel mafia. You can just tell them to get lost at most.
Yeah.
So what we do is we say we're not playing a single Bollywood track. We're not playing a single commercial music track. Nothing
Yeah.
from Universal Music. So
Yeah.
they still try to harass you. It's basically it's quite nonsense.
Yeah, there's some Supreme Court orders and all. It's
Yeah,
gone
but-
all the way up. I'm like,
No, because it's ridiculous. Like you firstly, if you are a T series, and then I'm playing only your tracks like Gulshan Kumar tracks, then okay, fine. You come and collect some royalty from me, and I'm making lakhs of rupees. That's fine. But if I play one Gulshan Kumar track, which is like rare. You can't come and say, okay, now give me 20,000 rupees for a license.
Yeah, see, it's
That's
fair. Yeah, if
ridiculous.
someone's doing a cover band of like, and they're saying we'll perform all of Farhan Akhtar's songs.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense. That's
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
fair. Collect
Yeah.
from them,
Yeah.
But if it's one or two tracks, how you even want to track it? It doesn't make any sense. The PPL license is a joke,
no, it is. But like the world, how it's moving towards more of the metaverse and NFTs and all. There is also a lot of revolution happening in the music industry
Yeah,
as
it
well.
is.
Because now, exactly what we're talking about, now if all your music is licensed and if it's being played, then there's a nice way of figuring out, okay, this is being played,
Correct.
now the royalty will be collected
There's actually
by
a very
these
cool
owners.
soft website now called A-Slice, where you can upload your entire set you played the previous day, and it tells you all the artists. So if your fee was, let's say, 40,000 rupees, you can say, I want to give 3,000 rupees of my set, and they equally distribute it to all the artists.
Oh wow,
Globally.
that's super.
Yeah, so A-Slice is becoming a cool new thing. You need a lot of ethics and morals to do it.
Yeah.
Some of the very up there DJs who produce are doing it, and it's supposed to be pretty cool. You're getting
Right.
like they're making some money out of it and whatnot. So
Yeah.
No, like also like if you want to put certain music in a YouTube video,
Right.
for example, so then YouTube copyright strikes
Of
it
course,
because.
even on Instagram,
But
you
I'm
wanna
like,
put up this
how
thing
do we
done.
go and license this, pay so much and
Oh,
all?
it's
There has
crazy,
to be
yeah.
a middle ground because on one way you're helping the artist also by publicizing their music.
Yeah.
On the other hand, they also have
this
to make
happens
money.
at a very complicated level with distributors who do the labels. What I was telling you about, they'll tell you when you sign the contract with one of them, they'll say we will license it to one of these deep house channels on YouTube and whatnot. So
Right.
it happens at that level, but yeah, it's tricky. But it's also Spotify and all. You know, they don't let anybody make money except unless you're a I don't know, Rihanna or someone. It's crazy. It's like 0.00003 cents per play for any common man.
What?
Yeah, Spotify is a big rip-off. They don't pay
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I know a lot of electronic music DJs who don't even put their music on Spotify for that
no?
reason because they have something else called Bandcamp.com, which is
Okay.
very popular, which we use. And it's direct to artist.
Okay.
And the website keeps only about 5% or something. And Fridays, it's 100% to artist.
That's insane.
So they do something called Bandcamp Fridays, where everybody goes crazy buying all their music. So you load up your cart, and on Friday you do Bandcamp Friday.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kartik,
Yeah.
to finish it off,
Yeah.
if you have to give advice to someone who's seeing this podcast and wants to get
We're
into
gonna
DJing,
yeah.
what would you tell them?
I'd say it's not as glamorous as it looks. It's fun as hell, don't get me wrong. But I think be sure you're going to make the hustle and work hard towards it. Chart your own way. Don't be a carbon copy of everything else. You know, be something unique and make sure you have something unique to offer. If you don't, learn how to DJ, play for your friends at home. Keep it at that, right? Don't let it, because it's very consuming. As I said, there's the mental angle to it where, you know, you'll hear hurtful things. People will say you're shit.
Yeah.
People will say you're great some days. So it has those ups and downs. It's not a very lucrative profession for at least 10 years for making money.
Yeah.
So yeah, think it through. But if you truly, really love it, and I know people who think that way are 100% sure. There's no 90, there's no 80. You got to be 100, 150% sure. So
Got it.
I think, yeah, but be true to it and be true to the music and the people there.
Okay, well done.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
Kartik.
Thank you, man. That was
Thank
fun.